After reaching on the island, the family set up a makeshift camp, that is tent. William knew that they must prepare for a long time on this island, and his thoughts are as much on provision for the future as for their immediate wants. And William and his oldest son Fritz spent the next day exploring the island. They set up tent and softened the floor with an armload of grass. They cut and sprayed to serve their pets. Father and Fritz made excellent bowls and spoons, and they cut gourds into various utensils. But Elizabeth informed William that she wanted the family to move to a safer place. If they built a house up in one of the large trees, they would be safe from jackals. As Elizabeth said, William started constructing tree house with the help of Fritz. He taught Fritz geometry and use of triangle to measure big objects. They created their bamboo, ladder, sledge, etc. Meanwhile, Elizabeth announced that the garden she had been tending was producing healthy plants of corns, melons, pumpkin, and cucumbers. At the same time, Fritz and his father also explored exotic plants from which they could make candles, and they also discovered trees which imitating rubbery sap from which they could make boots. Over the next few days, William's father attached the fragible old cakes to one another and built a bow that curved around them. The family had landed successfully on island. They set up a tent and softened the floor with the armload of grass they cut and sprayed to serve as their beds. They came to a grove of trees. One tree grew what looked like gourds on its trunk. The father told Fritz the gourds would make excellent bowls and spoons, and they cut them into various utensils. After some days, Elizabeth informed William that she wanted the family to move to the safer place. Their current camp was not only exposed but also very dry and hot. If they built a house up in one of the large trees, they would be safe from jackals. She described a perfect tree for the project, one whose trunk was nearly 40 feet in diameter. The branches were very long and extended straight out from the trunk, making them perfect platform for the structure. Later, when determining the height of the lowest branches, the father taught the boy geometry and how to use triangle to measure big objects. He measured a defined distance from the trunk. Then he calculated angles using several major rods, determining that the lowest branches were 30 feet off the ground. The men knotted a rope at certain intervals and attached piece of bamboo in each knot. Thus, they created their ladder. Father returned to the beach and collected driftwood, thinking it would be perfect to build a sledge on runners rather than wheels. Later, they used it to transport material. Meanwhile, Elizabeth announced that the garden she had been tending was producing healthy plants. Corns, melons, pumpkins, and cucumbers were already grown. The next day, only the father and Fritz traveled to the woods, exploring and finding such exotic plants as one with waxy fruit, from which candles could be made. But thinking of winter, tree house was not safe, and Fritz came up with idea of cave. And imagine on smooth face of the rock father marked the dimensions for an opening and they picked away at the hard surface with their axes. Now, the question was about light in night. So for light in the cave house, they found a bamboo pole that would reach from floor to ceiling and Jack hung oil lamp on that. But now, one day they found huts. Fields around it had been trampled and ruined. They identified that it was a herd of elephants. Next morning, family began to design a new defense from all wild animals from entering their cultivated lands, and they built another safe home from 4 strong trees growing in the square near one another as the foundation.
1, 2, 3.
Thinking ahead of next winter, father decided to create a place safe from the elephants, a strong storage spot to protect themselves and their belongings. Fritz came up with the idea of the cave. Not finding one, they thought of carving out their own cave in the rock abutting their camping site. On smooth face of the rock, father marked the dimension for an opening and they picked away at the hard surface with their axes, chisel, hammers, shovels. Over the next several days, the family cut window in the rock to allow for the cross currents of air and for sunlight to enter the cave. When they had finished, they had 4 rooms, complete with fireplace. They now had a new winter home. Because of the low light, the cave house they had built felt oppressive. To remedy this, father and Jack rigged up a new light. They found a bamboo pole that would reach from the floor to ceiling. Then after securing it, Jack climbed to the top of the pole and hung up a large oil lamp that they had rescued from the ship. One day, they found that one of the family's herd had been completely destroyed and cultivated field around it had been trampled and ruined. There were huge footmarks everywhere. Father saw massive damage to trees as well as many huge footprints, which we identify as belonging to the elephant herds. Next morning, the family began to design a new defense discourage all wild animals from entering their cultivated lands. They also finalized their ideas about the new residence. Rather than building a house on the stilt which the elephant could knock down easily, they would use 4 strong trees growing in a square near one another as the foundation. The trees were the equal size, approximately 12 feet apart. Thus, they built another safe home.